if you need a big three, he finds his way to a big three this year. Didn't do that last year, does this year.
Yeah, he made some good shots. Yeah, he's up there for sure. No reason to. I mean, Malcolm Brogdon, you could say he's a point guard backup for the Celtics. He's really good too. But I mean, he's as good as it gets in terms of backup point guards. He's a very good one.
Well, Brunson, when he was a backup, now he's the star in New York. I thought, okay, that's a really good backup. And I don't know if Tyus Jones is as good as that, but he's pretty solid. I mean, and if Ja were to go down, you're in pretty good shape waiting for him to come back. So, what a great signing that was to keep this guy in the fold. I think he is the highest paid backup point guard now in the NBA. Is that accurate? Do you know?
I'll look. Let me look it up.
Okay. And then I've taken my shots at Zaire Williams because I'm not totally sold. But last night he had his best game. 16 points, 1 rebound in 14 minutes. It sure helps your overall game when you make shots. We hear coaches talk about that all the time. He was 6 of 7 last night, 3 of 4 from three-point range. And Zaire Williams, a couple of those were important in the Grizzlies pulling away. And I mean, they had a great second quarter, 43 points in that quarter. What they have? The game before in Charlotte, I think they had a 46-point first quarter, right?
That's right.
So you're talking about 46-point quarter, 43-point quarter. You get those kinds of quarters, you're going to be leading games. That's crazy. Think about that. I mean, if you did that every quarter, we'd be talking 174 points.
Yeah, it's hard to do it every quarter though. It looks like Derek White for the Celtics makes a little bit more than Tyus Jones does, but by my count here, and Colin Sexton makes more than he does. Probably third. It would be third here. He right there with Derek.
All right,
Rose.
so those two guys you just mentioned, who'd you rather have? I'd rather have Tyus Jones.
You're asking me to. You're playing with my heartstrings now. I love both of those players. Colin Sexton's had a great year. Derek White does it on both ends really well offensively, and he's a great defender. Remember him last year in the playoffs? He was locking guys up.
Here's my thing on Colin Sexton. He's good. I watched him in college. He played the Tigers when he was at Alabama. Or he was supposed to. I can't remember if he actually played in that game or not, because there was questions about, I think, his eligibility. Some crazy thing. But when you're taken as high as he was, and you're a backup, that's kind of disappointing.
Well, but it's role-based, though. He could start there, but they got Mike Conley in the fold at the 2 there, and then they also have not Donovan Mitchell anymore, but it's more role-based, I think, for him, because he started in Cleveland.
What was he taking overall? Like in the top 10, wasn't he?
Yeah, I believe he was like the 7th pick.
I think that's right.
Eighth pick.
Eighth pick, okay. So you're taking 8th pick. You're supposed to be a starter in the long run. Maybe he will be. Maybe he will be, but he's not now. So I don't know. Maybe that taints me. But Tyus Jones all-around game, I mean, if you look, he leads the NBA every year in assist-to-turnover ratio. He doesn't turn the ball over.
That's right.
He's mad when he has one turnover.
That's right.
I was listening to Ja talk about that, and Ja's going, if my ratio is like 2 to 1, I'm really happy. He goes, Tyus Jones, if he has one turnover, he's mad.
And I'll tell you who else is playing well, and this doesn't really have to do with Tyus Jones, but his brother is for the Spurs. He is playing great basketball right now. The Spurs, while they're a bad team, they're super competitive as well. It's something in those Jones genes. That's Jones genes have something going on.
Where did his brother go to college? He didn't go to Duke too, did he?
I thought he did.
Maybe he did.
I was trying to think about this the other day. Yeah, he also went to Duke. So
wow.
they both
so they're smart.
That's right.
They're both from Minnesota, right? They're from
Apple Valley.
Yeah. Well, it's a good story. Anyway, I thought Tyus Jones played well. You think Zaire's finally getting his feet under him? Is that why he looked so good last night? Or, let's be honest, Orlando has a lot of talent, but they haven't put it together yet. They're not a very good team.
Especially on the defensive end. And it's more just like a matchup problem. Like they have a bunch of guys that are like, well, Paolo could be a good defender point guard in the 4. He's a rookie right now. He has steps to go. And then they're putting like Franz Wagner and him on Triple J. A lot of matchup problems for
Yeah.
the Magic last night. You could tell.
As good as Wagner might be, he can't match up with Triple J.
He dribbled with his left last night, though, Dave, and I swear this is not hyperbole. It's the first time in his career I've seen him shoot multiple left-handed layups. The guy doesn't go left. He went left twice last night. That's a win in my book for him.
Ah, that's interesting. I'm trying to remember. There was a Tiger player went left every time. It may have been Jeremiah Martin. And so I think I asked him one time, I said, Jeremiah, it's you always go to your left. Have you ever thought about your right? And he goes, why?
It's like James Harden.
Actually, it was not. Jeremiah Martin did always go to his left, but he could go to his right. It was another player that transferred and ended up going like to Murray State. I can't remember his name, but he is the one I asked that of. He goes, why? He can't stop me to my left.
It's like James Harden at the beginning of his career and in college. He had two directions, left and then further left.
Yeah.
And that's all he would do.
Right. That was really good. Speaking of which, my new thing that I'm doing, the old school analytics, where I take road wins minus home losses. So there are 4 teams, including Memphis, that are +7. That's the best. +7. Who do you think those 4 teams are?
Celtics.
Yes. So the Grizzlies, the Celtics. Nets.
Nuggets.
Yep, that's it.
That's it.
Are those the 4 best teams? This old school thing that was, I think, what did I say, Doug Moe in the 80s?
Yeah, that's
developed
right.
this?
That's what you said.
Hey, it works.
Yeah, but we were talking how well the Mavs are playing yesterday too, and
they've
not been good on
the Mavs.
I
cursed the Mavs.
That was a tough game. But like we just said, Celtics are one of the 4, maybe the best team in the league, honestly.
So I think the Celtics may be the best team in the league, and what they did to the Mavericks last night was criminal. I mean, they just beat the holy heck out of them. But this is the NBA, right? It's not like college where if you've got certain matchups, there's no way another team can beat you. Although we saw a 16 beat a 1, but the Mavericks, the Celtics gave up like 140 earlier in the week to Oak City and lost the game. And then they go to Dallas and do what they did?
Without Shai Gilgeous-Alexander in that game.
How does that happen?
Yeah,
Explain that to me.
Well, I think the Thunder are like a different team at home, which is the way it is for a lot of young teams that are getting better. They're going to be better on their home floor than their road floor. But you're right, it doesn't really make a lot of sense. The only thing I can say in defense of the Celtics and to diminish the Mavs a little bit is the Mavs on this 7-game win streak. They played the Rockets 3 times. Their road games were the Spurs and the Timberwolves that aren't playing great, and they beat the Knicks at home, which was a great game where Luka went off, and they also beat the Lakers at home. So maybe a little bit of a fraudulent 7-game win streak. Those aren't the most powerful teams in the league, but still, last night I don't think anybody expected a 30-point loss by the Mavericks.
Yeah. All right, 2 quick things before we do our pick 6 at 16. And, man, that's embarrassing. I hate to say it, but I'm under 500. You are over 500 barely. We have not exactly killed us.
I think I'm like 20 games under 500 in college football.
Well, good for you because we're only doing 1 game.
That's right.
We got 5 important NFL games. All right, so the news today on Damar Hamlin is unbelievable. It's, I think, what they have called remarkable. He is not only improving, they've taken out the breathing tube, so he's breathing on his own and talking. Did you tell me he did a Zoom call today with his teammates?
He got on FaceTime with his team during a team meeting this morning, talked to everybody, his entire team, which is great.
So, is he out of ICU then?
I'm not sure about that. I'm not exactly sure how the rooms work, but he's clearly doing a lot better. I'm not sure. Maybe 1 more day for observation. I'm not sure.
Well, first of all, the good news was when that doctor said his neurological systems were intact. That means there was no brain damage, no anything of that kind. And obviously, if he's articulating with his team already, and the first thing he asked, so you knew, was who won the game.
And the doctors were so nice to say he won the game of life.
Yeah.
All I could imagine in my head is like, no, doc, don't get cute with me. I want to know if we won the football game.
Yeah, I don't know because he couldn't talk at that time.
Right.
He was writing things down. I'm sure they said they canceled the game because of you, but you won the game of life because you're around. So anyway, and now we know the NFL is going to be crazy this weekend because there are some important games, but they're not going to, as we suspected, I mentioned this yesterday, they're not going to do a makeup game with that. That was crazy. They couldn't do it. So now they're talking. I don't know why you don't just flip a coin. Because why are you going to put it on a neutral? Why don't you at least let one fan base get to enjoy these things?
And they're having trouble finding a spot, too. Like, they want to do it Ford Field, and apparently Ford Field they're doing something with the turf after the season's over or something like that. They didn't expect the Lions to be playing.
Yeah, they could delay it. Well, yeah, if the Lions are in it?
Exactly.
I have a hard time believing they couldn't find a place to play these games. And I am certain they would still get a bunch of fans there, but one fan base should be rewarded. I don't know why you wouldn't do that. And if it's a flip of the coin, it's a flip of the coin. Now you got to get 24 of the owners out of the 32. So 75% have to agree. And who knows if they won't change their mind on a neutral and just flip the coin. We'll have to wait and see on that. There are so many good games. We're going to get to that. Also, other news, it's reported now that the Tigers are going to hire the former Auburn and Tennessee offensive line coach. Will Friend is his name. He would replace Jim Bridge as the Tigers offensive line coach. And coming from those schools, that seems to be a pretty good hire on paper. All right, I'm sitting in the Family Leisure Studios. It's finally here. We've got this brand new sale coming. It's the floor model sale. And there will be a sale on pools and pool tables and arcade games and all the rest at really good prices. So I told you this was going to happen. It always does with Family Leisure. It's the floor model sale. It has begun now at I-40 and Whidden Road. Family and fun always come together at Family Leisure. Our title sponsor, as always, it's Homer Skelton Hyundai in Olive Branch, where the service is not only incredible, but they've always got some sort of incentive for you to try and just really enjoy the new technology that new cars bring. I rent automobiles all the time on the road with the Tigers, and I will tell you, this new technology is amazing. And then Hyundai's got it all. They've got all the new technology, and it's just a pleasure to drive these new cars. And right now, if you were to go into the Homer Skelton Hyundai dealership right at the corner of Craft Road and Highway 78. Go see Chris True. Go see Rick Fink. Go see all the guys, David Richardson, John Burnside, and Finance. They'll help you out. And right now there is a new thing going on through the entire month of January. It's a deferred payment. You buy a brand new Hyundai with all that new technology, and don't worry about paying for 3 months. It's the 90-day deferred payment program going on at Homer Skelton Hyundai. All right, are you ready?
As ready as I'll ever be, I think.
Let's do this thing. We'll start.
First game is going to give me trouble.
You'll start with the college football game because that seems to trouble you. So TCU is the biggest underdog for a championship game I think ever.
Has to be.
Yeah. Just the craziest thing. Somehow my phone got on microphone on a text. And it is saying everything that I'm doing here.
We can add captions to the stream after we're done today.
Oh my gosh! So I think that's too many points. I think Georgia's going to win. I think they'll be a defending national champion, a two-time national champion. I don't think they're going to they're going to beat TCU by 13 based on what we saw at the semifinals. I'm sorry. Duggan's not going to let that happen. Sonny Dykes is not going to let that happen. Their defense is better than some people think. I think TCU is in the game the whole way. Georgia's going to win by a touchdown, maybe even a field goal. That's it. Give me TCU.
You know, I really have no idea. I'm just going to go the other way.
I love it. Thank you.
I'll take Georgia.
All right. You're going to let me back in. I'm 5 games behind. I need it. All right, let's go to the NFL. And the winner is in. The loser is out. Tennessee at Jacksonville. Joshua Dobbs is going to get his first chance to start for the Tennessee Titans because, let's face it, he's their third option. Against Trevor Lawrence, who's getting better. I think all the momentum is going to Jacksonville. It's in Jacksonville. It's a big spread here, 6.5. I don't like that. But, most of the time, winners cover. Winners are what is the difference in the NFL. I'm going to go with Jacksonville.
I'm going to take Tennessee. I think they're playing. I think Mike Vrabel is a heck of a coach. I do not think in a divisional game that has a playoff berth on the line, he's going to allow his team, even if they don't win, to lose by a touchdown. Even with Josh Dobbs, he looked all right last week. I'm going to take the Titans.
Okay. There's a theme for me. This is a critical game. Detroit is taking on Green Bay. Detroit wins. They could be in. Green Bay wins. They are in. Green Bay at home, 4.5-point favorites. These are the Lions, right? I know they made this great run at the end, but they've just about run out of gas, I'm afraid. I'd love to see Detroit win. You know how I feel about the Green Bay Packers being the Chicago Bear fan that I am. But I think Aaron Rodgers' story continues. Give me Green Bay.
I think the Lions are going to play really inspired football, especially because the game we're going to pick in a minute, the Seahawks-Rams game is before this one.
Yes. And
there's a scenario that the Lions are eliminated before the game even starts. I think a lot of people are going to hammer the Packers in that scenario, but I think Dan Campbell and the Lions don't care. They're going to play hard no matter what. I'm going to take the Lions to cover this spread.
Okay. I love it. We are 3-for-3 split here. Rams at Seattle, that game, again, what you mentioned, Rams have been terrible. Seattle has everything to play for. They win. They're in. They're only giving away 5.5. I like Seattle all the way. I'm a home team guy this week.
I love dogs, both real animals and also underdogs. And I just can't take the Rams in this one. This might be the only favorite I might take all week. I'm going to have to take the Seahawks in this one as well. Okay. I just can't. I can't bring myself to take the Rams.
I didn't think we'd differ on every one of these. Next up, New England at Buffalo. Buffalo giving away 7. New England, they're pretenders this year. I don't believe in them. I don't believe in Mac Jones. They've made so many dumb plays this year. They're not like the usual New England Patriots. And Buffalo, they still want to be the number 1. They got to win. They need some good things to happen with Kansas City. They're at home. It's 7, but I like them. I've gone with every home team. I'm doing it again. Buffalo.
I'm going to take the Patriots here just because it's a divisional game the last week of the year. The Patriots also have a playoff berth on the line. If they win, they're in the playoffs. It's a tough game to win, but I just think it'll be competitive because of that. Although the Bills, it's hard to bet against probably the team playing the most inspired football in the NFL this week with what's happened to them in the past 7-6 days or whatever. I'm going to take the Patriots either way, though, plus the 7.
I am worried about that effect, the Hamlin effect. Because I don't know how they or Cincinnati are going to feel. But that's our last game, Baltimore at Cincinnati. And, again, I'm going to go with the home favorite because they've got everything to play for. They could end up, if weird things happen, they could be the number 1 seed with the bye. So I'm going to go with Cincinnati. They're going to play their hearts out, as good as Baltimore might be.
Yeah, the Baltimore situation, first of all, their defense hasn't been very good all year, and they're playing with a third-string quarterback, I think, at this point in time. That being said, though, a lot of people are betting on the Bengals. This line has moved up to 9, I saw this morning. We have it at 7. I'm going to take the Ravens no matter what, though. Okay. I just think a divisional game, the Ravens have a berth to win that division on the line. I see another close game.
So we differ on 5 of 6. There could be a major swing in the standings this week. We got to take a break. When we come back, all things NBA with our agent from Priority Sports in Chicago, Andy Schiffman. He's brought to you in part by the good folks at Old Dominic. Yeah, we got lots of things that we could be celebrating this week, that's for sure. I know the New Year's is over, but folks still like celebrating, and I've got a great thing to celebrate with. It's called the Old Dominic Whiskey. Master distiller Alex Castle has released these two whiskeys, a sipping whiskey and a bottle and bond whiskey, and she wasn't going to release them until they were perfect or perfect. They were ready, and you should be ready to try them. Also, check out the wonderful tours they do. It's your hometown distillery. It's right there on Main. It's Old Dominic with those tours, curated tastings, and craft cocktails at the bar afterwards. Cool bar. Go check it out. That is Old Dominic. We're back in just a minute. We talk the NBA with Schiffman in just a sec.
Be sure to follow us at Sports56 WHBQ on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube to watch live video of our shows, stay up to date with station events, and have chances to win prizes. Don't miss out on anything that's going on. Follow us at Sports56 WHBQ.
Hey, Zeke, where's Gabe?
There's no easy way to say this, so I'm just going to say it. Over the holidays, Gabe ate himself into a Central Barbecue food coma.
He what now?
Between all the Central Barbecue takeout and all the Central Barbecue gift cards that he got.
He ate himself into a Central Barbecue food coma.
Exactly. He's completely unresponsive except when there's a game on.
Isn't that pretty much always the case with Gabe?
Now it's even worse. Thanks to Central Barbecue and Gabe's addiction to it, he couldn't even be roused to watch the Camellia Bowl.
Well, what can we do? Is there a cure?
We have no way of knowing. All we can do now is wait and pray.
Hi, everybody. Greg Gaston for FanDuel. Add a little excitement to your sports watching experience by betting on all the action on FanDuel Sportsbook. There's a reason why FanDuel is America's #1 sportsbook. Their app is simple to use. They've got great odds on all different betting markets, unique fun bet types like same-game parlays, and exclusive always-on promotions such as enhanced odds boosts on the biggest events that let you get more action out of every game day. And if you win, they even get you your winnings safely in as little as 24 hours. Download the FanDuel Sportsbook app to get started, and be sure to sign up with promo code GASMAN so they know I sent you. That's FanDuel Sportsbook, promo code GASMAN. Must be 21 or over and present in Tennessee. First online real money wager only. $10 first deposit is required. Bonus issued is non-withdrawable site credit that expires 14 days after receipt. Restrictions do apply. See full terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. If you have a gambling problem, call Tennessee Redline at 1-800-889-9789.
By now, you know that sound. It's the sound of the Home Depot. But what about that sound? You're listening to a set of GE appliances, complete with all you need to keep food fresh, dishes clean, and everything else stress-free. Making this the sound of savings on top brand appliances. The Home Depot. How doers get more done. Get up to 25% off select GE appliances right now. Offer valid January 5th through January 25th, 2023. U.S. only. See store or online for details.
DeSoto Auto Sales specializes in late model cars with low mileage. They have the highest standards in the car industry. All of their cars are test-driven, checked out from head to toe. Unlimited inventory, every make and model. And if it's not on the lot, they'll find it for you. Walk in the door of DeSoto Auto Sales, 5704 Goodman Road. Within 45 minutes, you can test your car, get credit approval, and finish paperwork within an hour. No shortcuts at DeSoto Auto Sales. Kind, courteous employees, a down-home environment. DeSoto Auto Sales cares about your time. Lowest prices in a 350-mile radius. We're living in a world today where time does matter. Visit them online. Check out their referrals. DeSotoAutosales.com. Very proud to serve DeSoto County and other surrounding areas. DeSoto Auto Sales, 5704 Goodman Road. Call 662-890-7184. 662-890-7184. Come on down to DeSoto Auto Sales.
Now, back to Wolo and Friends on Sports 56 and 98.5 FM, presented by Homer Skelton Hyundai. Here once again is the voice of the Tigers, Dave Woloshin.
It was fun last night. The Grizzlies dominated early, held on. They beat Orlando down in Florida, which means They are now tied with the Nuggets atop the Western Conference. Boy, what Boston did to Dallas after Dallas had won 7 in a row. And I think we put the whammy on them, J-Mo. I really do. Lots to talk about with our friend on the NBA. That is Andy Schiffman, our agent in Chicago from Priority Sports. How are you this morning? A belated Happy New Year to you, Andy.
You too, Dave. Everything is good here in Chicago. There's no snow on the ground, so I probably just jinxed it, but I'll take it.
You probably did, because it is early January. You got plenty of snow coming. I hate to tell you.
I believe it.
I got to ask you this. We have seen Luka in the 60s, Giannis in the upper 50s, Donovan Mitchell 71, Klay Thompson 53. Why are so many guys scoring so many points? 43 guys now in the NBA average 20 or more points per game. I don't think I've ever seen scoring at a higher individual level than we are seeing this year. Why?
Well, first off, it's unheard of in the league. Second off, it's so fun to watch. That Donovan Mitchell 71-point game in overtime against Chicago on, I believe it was Tuesday night, was pretty incredible, given the fact that Donovan really didn't even have a great first half, and the Cavs were down 18 at the half to the Bulls. Look, I think it's as simple as, obviously, talent-wise, these guys are elite players, these superstars that are putting up these numbers, but it just comes down to more possessions. That's why you see scoring increase every single season in the NBA. Teams are finding ways to play faster and increase the number of possessions. And when you have increased possessions on both sides of the ball, then you're naturally going to have more scoring opportunities, and you throw in high-level, better, more effective players like Luka, like Donovan, like Giannis. Obviously, the rest of the team has a lot to do with that. I think it's a perfect storm for these monstrous scoring games. And look, we haven't really talked much about it in the last couple of weeks since he's been going on this tear, and I meant to bring it up last week, but look, we always talk about, okay, who's the leader in the clubhouse for MVP? I think Ja Morant for sure is going to be in that conversation. Luka, to me, absolutely 100% is the MVP. And I say that because I've watched enough Dallas games where they have been down. Even the other night, they were down, I believe it was against Houston for the better part of the game. Now, obviously, last night they got shell-shocked against Boston. But Luka, not anyone else on that team, comes back and beats these teams individually. He did it against the Knicks in overtime a couple of weeks ago. It's absolutely incredible what he's doing on a nightly basis. If you go back and look at his stat line and look at his impact with the Dallas Mavericks. So that's my hypothesis, though, just in terms of why you see this explosion of scoring, individual scoring.
I'm curious, because we know in sports there's always a pendulum swinging. And when one part gets ahead, coaches figure out a way to stop it, unless there's rules like in the NFL that are legislated to keep offense ahead of defense. And that may end up happening in the NBA. We know you can't really have zone defense the way they can in college. Do you think that will change, or is this trend here for a while?
I would venture to guess that this trend is going to stay for a while. I think teams, obviously, look, the championship caliber teams are the best defensive teams every year in the league. They have superstars. They're often led by superstars, but they can lock in defensively. Can you sustain the success you've been having without needing to, like you said, potentially all of a sudden switch up your defensive schemes, play more zone? Absolutely, because look, the biggest thing, if you're talking about a team switching to a zone, the reason you do that from the X's and O's standpoint is because a team is really beating you inside in the paint. And if you look at the trend in the NBA over the last several seasons, pretty much every big man in the NBA has the ability to step out and shoot threes, whether it's Anthony Davis, Miles Turner, Karl Anthony Towns, even with the Grizzlies and Santi Aldama, maybe not so much with Steven Adams. And so every team over the last several seasons has increased the number of perimeter shooters on their roster. They've increased their ability to knock down perimeter shots. You see more and more players shooting 40% plus from three. It's funny. I mean, years ago, you talk about a high-level three-point shooter in the NBA, you're talking in that 35+%. Now, the elite shooters, you're expected to be over 40% from three. it's very interesting, and it's such a high standard to achieve now, but that's the expectation. And I think a lot of these higher level teams would absolutely destroy a zone defense when you just put high level shooters around the perimeter. That's the makeup of a current modern day NBA roster. So yeah, I think this trend is here to stay, and I think it's beneficial to the fans seeing these high scoring games. I think it was OKC the other night hung up 150 points, and look, OKC is one of the bottom feeder teams in the NBA, scoring 150 points in an NBA game.
Yeah.
That's pretty incredible.
Against a team that a lot of people think is the best team in the NBA. To me, that's incredible, and they did it without their best player. SGA wasn't even in the game.
Exactly. I mean, you look at the top 5 scoring teams in the NBA right now: Boston, Sacramento, New Orleans, Utah, Golden State. And all those teams, I believe, are lock-solid playoff contending teams or on the cusp of fighting for a playoff spot. If you're talking about Utah and Golden State, we'll see. We've talked about it before. We'll see where they are come April in the standings. But Golden State on up, that's 117 points per game. And if you're an NBA fan watching the NBA 10 years ago, it was almost unheard of to sit there and watch a team put up 117, 120 points. And it's almost to the point now where it's expected that the end result is going to be in triple digits every single night. And it's fun to watch if you like kind of that high octane, fast paced brand of basketball.
You mentioned earlier the folks that are up for the MVP. I'm not arguing with you at all about Luka, but you do this at the end of the year because to me, if you're the MVP, you got to be on a team that is amongst the top 2 or 3 or 4 teams in the league.
Sure.
The Mavs are not there yet. The Joker's going for 3 in a row, and I hate to say it, but his team is sitting atop the Western Conference with the Memphis Grizzlies.
Yep. And look, Jokic, even last night when they beat the Clippers, to your point, MVP, it's not just all about scoring. It's impact on winning. And Nikola obviously has shown that year in and year out with Denver. You saw it last night, even in games where he's not putting up monster scoring numbers. Just his ability and his presence out there impacts every single possession for Denver night in and night out. I don't know. For me, like I said, Luka's absolutely put this team on his back, and he has just this unmatched will to win, and he's going to do whatever it takes, and he has the ability to do whatever it takes. So I agree with you. There's definitely a huge emphasis on winning. I think at the end of the day, Dallas is going to emerge as a top 5 to 6 team in the West. I do. That's what I think right now. And you saw how they battled last year in the playoffs. There's a lot to be excited about moving into this season. But if you take a step back and talk about the MVP candidates here as of January 6th during the season, obviously you talked about Jokic. You talked about Luka. I think you definitely have to throw Ja Morant in that conversation. I think you definitely have to throw Donovan Mitchell now in that conversation. And then you're going to have Joel Embiid. You're going to have Giannis. You're for sure going to have Jason Tatum. I mean, this year, there are – he might be my second. If Luka's one, then maybe for me, Tatum is 1A. But this year, in years past, put it this way, Dave, you've seen, Jokic is running away with it. Embiid, LeBron, Giannis, they're running away with it. There's going to be 7 or 8 guys that I think are all going to get first-place MVP votes at the end of the season. And I love that as an NBA fan, the parity among the superstars and watching these guys every single night. And let's not even forget, we can't forget about Kevin Durant and what the Nets are doing. Now, they just lost for the first time, I think, in 13 games here in Chicago the other night. But people are sleeping on the Nets. They're not really talked about as they once were when they had Harden and Kyrie and Durant. And obviously everyone remembers the turmoil and everything that's going on with Kyrie this year. And everyone's so focused on Boston, on Denver, on Milwaukee, on Philadelphia. And you look up and all of a sudden, Brooklyn is one of the best teams in the NBA. And you look at what Durant does on a nightly basis. I was at their game against the Spurs in Brooklyn the other night. And again, it was against the Spurs, who was one of the worst teams in the NBA. But it was varsity versus elementary school out there. It was pretty horrendous watching the Nets pick apart the Spurs, and I was honestly surprised they lost here in Chicago. But they can score any way they want to when you have those two guys on the floor. And then you talk about defensively when you put Nick Claxton, Ben Simmons, and Durant out there, all guys that are 6'9", 6'10", that are mobile and can guard multiple positions and switch, that is very scary if you're an opponent.
You were talking about in that back to the MVP race, and you got to throw KD in there too, right? I mean, if Brooklyn continues to play the way they are, and I think it's gonna be really interesting to watch the East all the way through too. But the All-Star voting came out yesterday, or the first reports of the All-Star voting, and Luka was one in the West as a guard. The second guard was Steph Curry. On the Golden State Warriors that are a game over 500, and he's been injured. That's not his fault. But here's Ja, who's third. I saw some big name tweet out that they would have Ja over Steph Curry. My question for you is this on that. Would you agree with that consensus from your objective viewpoint? And I'm not sure, you're an agent, you would know this. If he just makes the All-Star team, does that kicker go in where he gets that extra bonus, or do you have to be a starter?
So I'll answer that last question first, Dave, depending on the actual terms of the contract, because all those sort of things are negotiable. But generally speaking, for these higher-level players, and we have Gordon Hayward, Kyle Lowry, Bradley Beal, Michael Porter, all in similar situations in their careers. And you'll get a bonus if you're named to the All-Star team, but you'll get an additional bonus and more money if you are an All-Star starter. And if you win the All-Star game, I think the NBA obviously rewards those players, and a lot of it goes to charity, but also in your contract, you might get a monetary bonus as well. So there's bonuses on both fronts to answer your question. Being named to the team, and then more if you were named a starter. And that first part, would I have Ja over Steph Curry? Even removing myself from being a Memphian, 100% I would. For me, I get it. It's fan voting. Steph Curry is a perennial fan favorite. How do you not love the guy? But again, I try to look at it more objectively, even with regards to the players that I represent. You cannot discount what Ja has done. And if you look at this season, if you talk about who is more worthy of getting a starting spot on the All-Star team, is it Ja? Is it Steph? Based on the productivity this season, it is Ja, and I don't believe any objective NBA fans can argue and have any sort of sustainable argument against that. So, yeah, I would have Ja. Now, look, I would probably put Luka over Ja, but it's pretty close. So for me personally, Dave, I would probably have Luka, Ja, and even a guy like Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who's leader in the clubhouse for most improved player. And I understand that OKC's not really winning games, but he is on a tear, putting up over 30 points a game. I'd probably put him over Steph Curry. But again, we're talking about fan votes.
Right.
So I understand why, but I would have Ja.
We got to get those Northern California votes out of there. That's what we got to do.
Yeah.
Andy Schiffman, as always, we appreciate it. I know we got the trade deadline coming up soon. We'll talk a little bit about that next week. Thank you so much.
All right. Thanks, Dave. Have a good weekend.
That is our man, Andy Schiffman in Chicago. He's brought to you by the Eflin Insurance Team. They are a team, and they do insurance a little different. They collaborate with you. They sit down. They get to know who you are, what your family is all about, what your budget is, what's most important to protect, and then they find the perfect protection. That could be for life insurance. It could be an auto program. It could be the right home auto insurance for you, whatever it is, or all three. They do it so efficiently. And then if you've got a small to mid-sized business, this team, the Eflin Insurance Team, is perfect for you. It's their specialty, small to mid-sized commercial insurance. They are the best. They get to know your assets. They know your personnel. They know what your business is all about. They forecast out with you, and then they protect you. All you got to do is make the call to 901-386-GER. That's 901-386-4777, the GERs, because they're big supporters of the University of Memphis. That's the Eflin Insurance Team. They will take care of you. We will talk the Tigers and a little East Carolina and the disappointment in New Orleans next with our friend Brian Dacus. He comes your way in a minute.
Start your day with Sports 56 Mornings with Greg Gaston and Eli Savoy. Weekday mornings from 7 to 10, right here on Sports 56 and 98.5 FM.
Looking for a bar with it all? Pimento's Burgers Bar and Grill. Pimento's makes football your fantasy with 17 TVs and $2 draft beers during the game, Monday, Thursday, Saturday, and Sunday. And you know I love a great happy hour. At Pimento's, $4 house cocktails, Monday through Friday, 3 to 7. Yes, $4 house cocktails. Try one of their signature drinks like the JJ Spicy Margarita or the Tennessee Sunset. How about a Memphis Mudslide? Or be a kid again with the Adventure River Rum Punch. Hungry? Try a fan favorite, Bacon Pimento Cheeseburger. Or be like me and try them all. The Mushroom Extravaganza, Sweet Heat, and the Dirty, Mean, and Nasty. Need I say more? Well, yes, because there's so much more than just pimento cheese. Sliders, salads, quesadillas, 10 different appetizers. Just don't forget about dessert. 2 great locations, 6450 Poplar Avenue in East Memphis, and in Collierville, 3751 South Houston Levee Road. A bar with it all, Pimento's Burgers Bar and Grill. So much more than pimento cheese.
Hi, this is Troy Fiveash, owner of Fiveash Roofing. In these uncertain economic times, there are so many things as a contractor and a business owner that I cannot control. The rising cost of materials, not to mention fuel and transportation costs. In the last 2 years, shingle prices have almost doubled and commercial materials have doubled. And I don't have to tell you what fuel costs these days. But you know what I can control? How much markup I put on a project. I have always prided myself in knowing I never gouge a customer. But in an effort to ensure my crews have work and my customers are being treated fairly, I have lowered my profit margin, hoping to give you a price you can live with and keeping my crews busy. So if you need a roof or gutters, please give us a call. Five Ash Roofing, fair, honest, and ethical. Five Ash Roofing, a proud sponsor of Tiger Athletics and a member of the Tigers home team. 367-0050 or memphisroofer.com. 367-0050 or memphisroofer.com.
Five Ash Roofing, it's what we do. We're here for you.
Hi, this is Joe Cordell with the law firm Cordell & Cordell. When the prospect of divorce becomes a reality, you need a partner that you can count on. If you're a man in this situation, consider contacting Cordell & Cordell. We've helped men navigate complex legal matters for 30 years.
Contact Cordell & Cordell to schedule an appointment with one of our firm's Memphis attorneys. Office in Memphis, 6000 Poplar Avenue, Suite 225, Memphis, Tennessee, 38119. Online at CordellCordell.com.
Let's say you need a new car, so you go to a dealer, right? Wrong. You need to go to Mount Moriah Auto Sales. Why? Because why limit yourself to just one kind of car when you can choose from all kinds of cars, SUVs, and trucks? All different years, all different makes, all different models. Really good prices, too. Now, everyone says that about the money, but Mount Moriah Auto Sales proves it. They work hard to get you the deal you want, even financing. Plus, they have a huge full-service department to help you take care of your car. So many choices at Mount Moriah Auto Sales. They're almost unlimited, with new vehicles coming in every day. Now, these are really good cars and trucks and SUVs that you'll want to drive. And yes, low miles too. It's so easy. Just go to Mount Moriah Auto Sales, tell them what you want, but keep your eyes open because you might just find the car of your dreams. Mount Moriah Auto Sales makes it all possible. Go to MountMoriahAutoSales.com. Mount Moriah Auto Sales, right on the corner, right on the price, right on Mount Moriah.
Now back to Wolo and Friends on Sports 56 and 98.5 FM, presented by Homer Skelton Hyundai. Here once again is the voice of the Tigers, Dave Woloshin.
Lonely feeling deep inside. Find a corner.
Some sad news this morning. We use the word great, sometimes too loosely, but we lost a great one today, a very unique human being, George Bryant, who was a Memphian for a while, who was the pride of West Point, Mississippi, who he and his brother started, I think actually their parents started, Bryan Foods, and then went on to acquire and run Sara Lee. George Bryant, who also then pretty much willed and designed and dreamed his way to Old Waverly in West Point, Mississippi, and then also did the same thing with Mossy Oak across the street this incredible world-class combination of golf courses, just 2 hours and 15 minutes away from Memphis, where U.S. Women's Open was held at Old Waverly several years ago. George Bryant passed away this morning at the age of 78. To Marcia and to his family, son Wilkes, all those wonderful people in that family, our thoughts and our prayers are with you. It was a long fight for George. He had a stroke a couple of years ago. He fought and fought and fought. Now he is in, we hope, a better place for sure. In the meantime, Brian Dacus, you listen to him every day between 3 and 6 with Sports Time on Gabe and Stats. He participates. He is the producer of that show. He also writes and is a reporter for the University of Memphis on the website Our Team Memphis. It's really ourteam.com/Memphis. And Brian, I didn't do this last week because you're going to be a regular now through April. Tell me, if you will, exactly what do I do to go to that website? What's that website really good for? And what will I learn if I do that when I read you?
Yeah, so first off, thanks for having me again, Dave, and good morning to both of y'all. But yeah, just ourteammemphis.com. It's ourteam.com. It's about, I think, 7 or 8 teams on there right now. They're looking to expand and get more teams, but it's really just, these guys came together and they said, we really want to get good journalism, good coverage for teams in the markets, in a lot of these markets. And so they've kind of started off with a lot of smaller schools and are trying to grow, and Memphis was one of the teams that they wanted to get in there, thought that it was a really good market, a really good sports city. So especially on our team Memphis, you're going to find a lot of recruiting coverage. We cover recruiting a lot, but then also the game-to-game aspects of it. We do pregame write-ups, we do postgame write-ups for every football and basketball game. We'll start doing baseball when baseball comes around. I'm really excited actually about the baseball coverage because I just don't think a lot of baseball gets covered, especially for the Tigers. I think we're entering a new era for Memphis baseball, and I think it's a great time to start covering it. So we're going to do a lot of coverage there. But, yeah, just a lot of recruiting, a lot of game-to-game and stuff that a lot of fans want to read. You'll get over at our team Memphis.
And I'm assuming that you are in competition or very much like 24/7, Rivals, those kinds of places, right?
Yeah, it's going to be the exact same thing you get with those places. Yeah, so we're pretty much competitors with them.
But they don't have Brian Dacus.
That's right.
So that is the beauty of that. All right. So let's start with, I know you wrote a preview, you've written a post. What the heck happened in New Orleans from your viewpoint?
Yeah, I mean, it was Memphis struggles at Tulane for whatever reason. They lost last year on the road at Tulane. They lose again last weekend. And, I mean, a lot of it was just something you kind of saw against South Florida. I thought the biggest thing was Tulane's three-point shooting. They made 11 three-pointers in that game, kind of really beat the Tigers with that three ball throughout the game. It was kind of the same thing you saw against South Florida. South Florida in the first half was 50% from three and really was able to stick in the game and tie it at halftime with their three-point shooting. I think that's been an issue. I think you got into a little bit of foul trouble late in the game. And I think one of the biggest things that some people are probably overlooking is I don't think people valued what Malcolm Dandridge brought to this team before his injury. I mean, he's a guy that is going to stay in the paint. He's going to get you some points, but he's also going to get you a lot of rebounds. And with him out, now you're relying on DeAndre, and with him getting in foul trouble, really you don't have much behind. KO played a little bit. I think he only logged 2 minutes against Tulane. It's kind of one of those situations where Penny wants to get him in the game, but just can't really find a place to get him in. So you're really kind of undersized there in center because when you don't have DeAndre and then you're going to, Chandler Lawson or maybe even Keontae Kennedy to try to play that 4-5. So you're just really undersized in the paint. I think those are probably the two biggest things in that game against Tulane.
You mentioned KO. He actually apologized to KO for not playing him more in that game. I don't know if he truly trusts his gut with KO. KO's a rim protector, but I'm not exactly sure how much more he brings. He's not been a good rebounder. He clearly, at times, is lost on offense. He tried some hook shot the other day, and I guess it was against USF, and the hook shot was like a foot short. and he was only 3 feet away. So that's pretty hard to do that. But the only way he's going to get better is to play him. Now, he also said there would be changes. I don't know if that means in the starting lineup. He was going to shorten the rotation. Give me your best hunch on what we will see tomorrow against East Carolina. Which player is going to be sort of out of the rotation? Who's going to get more minutes? Give me your gut feel.
I would say, you might switch up the starting lineup a little bit. I know Penny, just from ever since he's really, got the head coaching job in Memphis, he's really been a stickler for kind of keeping the starting lineup the same. He might try to get maybe DeMaurier somewhere in there. I know he's been wanting to work him into the starting lineup, but with that injury, he didn't want to get them in. He didn't want to get him in there too fast. So you can maybe see DeMaurier in the lineup. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw more minutes from Jonathan Lawson tomorrow against East Carolina. He didn't play against Tulane, but he got a lot of minutes when the Tigers were struggling with injuries, came in, knocked down a lot of shots, was at times a little suspect defensively, but I wouldn't be surprised needing the shooting if we saw Jonathan Lawson maybe come in and get maybe 10 to 15 minutes tomorrow against East Carolina.
Well, that would actually be adding, because so is that, let's say Keontae Kennedy is out?
I think you'd probably see maybe Elijah with a little less minutes, or Keontae, maybe both of them just kind of less minutes, maybe not completely out of the rotation. I don't know how much. I know he said it. I don't know if I trust Penny Hardaway shorten the rotation completely.
I'm tending to side sort of your way. Let's see exactly what he will do with that, because it all comes down to his gut feel in the end. What do you think they have to adjust defensively? Because that's the problem the last 2 to 3 games. You give up 86 to USF. You give up 96 to Tulane. This is a team that we thought had a chance to be as good as the team was defensively the last couple of years. They're nowhere near that level.
No, they're not. And I think one of the big things I said earlier is that, guarding the perimeter, they just haven't been that great. Closing out on threes, I think that's something that you need to see them improve on. But also, one of the biggest things that Penny Hardaway has done ever since he's gotten here is they've locked down the star player, the leading scorer on opposing teams. We saw it a lot with Kendrick Davis when he was at SMU. He would go for 15 or 20, but it wasn't the 25 or 30 that he would usually get in SMU games. And we saw it on last weekend on Sunday against James Cook. He only went for 5 points and had to, really didn't get as many minutes as he usually does, ended up fouling out. But you see other guys step up. You see these role players, these bench players up for USF, these other guys in the starting lineups go for 30 and 20 points. I think that's going to be the biggest thing, is lock in on that star player, but you've got to also make sure that those kind of supporting characters in those rotations don't go off for 25 or 30 points every night.
All right, last thing, real quick. We see that it appears the word is Will Friend, former offensive line coach at Auburn in Tennessee, has been the choice of Ryan Silverfield to replace Jim Bridge. Your sense of that?
I think it's a good hire. We wrote a piece about it over at our team. If you want to read about it, go over to our team, Memphis. But a guy that has a lot of SEC experience, so I think it's a splash hire. I mean, he had back-to-back SEC offensive line first team at Tennessee, and I think 2 All-SEC Freshmen of the Year. Last year at Auburn, that team ran for over 200 yards a game and only gave up, I think, 33 sacks. So if he can come in and kind of bring that to the Tigers, I definitely think it's an improvement.
Great info. Thank you, my friend. I appreciate it. We'll see you tomorrow.
Thank you, Dave.
At FedEx Forum.
Sounds good. See you then.
All right. Don't forget, folks, that game is at 1 o'clock. It is an early game. Brian, brought to you in part by Sheldon. Yeah, it's a new year. And if you're considering moving into a bigger home, maybe you're scaling down like me. Maybe you're moving out of town. Oh, no. Sheldon Rosengard. Mark Spensdorf can advise and help you. Even if you're thinking of improving your home, Sheldon can tell you what renovations will make you more money in the future. That's all based on recent data. In the real estate business, people often say you want the job done, you call Sheldon, and it's true. Because he's always keeping up. He's got a strategy. And, here's the great thing. People, good coaches, they have a certain strategy and a philosophy, but they have to sometimes change it to the way the conditions are on the outside. That's what Sheldon does. If you would like to know more, call 483-0546. Ask about the strategic marketing program involving preparation and presentation. 483-0546 or go to memphisrelocate.com. You want the job done, call Shell Dunn. That's Shell Dunn Rosengarten, Marks Bensdorf. That'll do it for us for the week. See you at FedEx Forum. That would be tomorrow. We'll see you Monday right here.
Hi, everybody. I'm Dave Woloshin here.